Okay, hi, I'm Giacomo. I'm the co-founder of Remember. Remember is a flashcard app that helps people study and remember anything they care about. But today I want to talk about MCP, Model Context Protocol, which is something that has lots of hype behind it. But in our case, it actually solves some real problems. It enables some really powerful workflows. So today, first of all, I'm going to give you a demo of the Remember MCP server that we built. Then I'm going to introduce a few basic concepts about how MCP works. And finally, I'm going to get into the core of the talk, which is sharing some lessons that we learned in trying to build an actually high-quality MCP server. Okay, so let's start with the demo. This is an example from earlier today. Basically, I read a tweet that mentioned this concept of fiscal drag, which I didn't know anything about. So I just asked Claude, obviously, and he gave me a somewhat satisfying answer. But I know that just reading this answer once is not enough for me. Like, probably, this is a very technical concept. I probably just forget about it in a few days. But instead, if I had the chance to sort of review it, come back to it over the next few days and weeks, there's a much higher chance that I'll actually learn the concept and remember it. So I can do that by just saying add the definition to render. And basically what Claude did was he called this create flashcard tool, which is provided by the Remember MCP. So I forgot to mention. So MCP is basically a way to integrate third-party apps like Remember into pre-existing chat applications like Claude, ChatGPT, Cursor, whatever you're using. So basically, Claude can use the Remember MCP, and he created some flashcards for me. So what happened actually? It's okay. So this is my Remember dashboard, and in it there's a list of all the concepts that I learned and that I saved from my chats with Claude. And in particular, this first node is the one that was added in the conversation that I was showing. And oops, I cannot do one-handed, sorry. So besides simply collecting all of these facts, these things that I've learned, Remember also creates flashcards for me. So every day I can spend I usually spend 5 minutes after breakfast just going over and reviewing all of the things that I've learned. And the way this works is, Remember asked me a question. I actually don't know the answer to this. So then I reveal the answer, I check whether I got it right or wrong, and in this case I've forgotten it, so I say forgotten. And this feedback sort of helps Remember decide how often I should review this specific piece of information. Okay, enough about the demo. So these are the one-handed, sorry. Okay, so I need to introduce a few concepts about MCP, Model Context Protocol. So the protocol has two main concepts, the one of clients and the one of servers. Clients are chat applications like Claude, ChatGPT, Cursor, and then you have one MCP server for each integration that you're using. So, for instance, in Claude Desktop, if I press this button, you can see all these servers that I have installed. So basically, Claude is the client, and these are all the servers that I have installed in this case. So I have obviously the Remember MCP server, but then I have others like YouTube to sort of get video transcriptions, and Obsidian, which is the note-taking app that I use. And each server defines a bunch of tools. It does also other stuff, but the most important thing is that it defines a bunch of tools that Claude can then use. So for instance, the Obsidian server allows Claude to list my notes, read my notes, update my notes, etc. The Ramper MCP server instead has only one tool, which is create flashcards, and it's just the tool that was used earlier. Okay, now actually I want to show you how the create flashcard tool works, to then show you some sort of things that we build on top of it. You can find the code for the Ramper MCP server on GitHub. It's at ramper/ramper-mcp, and actually at the end of the README, I've also included, if you want to check it out later, I also included the lesson that I'm going to talk about later. So let me open up cursor. Okay, so each tool needs three things. It needs some sort of schema for the inputs to the tool. It needs a tool description, sort of telling Claude what the tool is and how to use it. And it needs a handler, which is basically a little program that runs in the MCP server once it gets the tool inputs from Claude. So the way this looks in practice, going back to the previous chat, is that Claude includes for each tool that you enable, it includes the tool description and the input schema in the system prompt. So anytime it answers, it actually reads the tool description, so it knows how to use the tool. And then after my second message, it decided to actually invoke the tool. This uses the same tool calling, function calling that's available in the Claude API and the OpenAI API. And it creates a request, okay, with some data matching the schema that we specified. So we have like a nodes array of structs with a text property, which is a string. And that is what I actually see here. Then this data is passed to the MCP server. So Claude sends this data over to the MCP server, where the handler runs. It takes the nodes array that was sent from Claude, does some pre-processing, and then we actually call the Ramper API. So we send these nodes over to our Ramper API, which will take care of adding it to my account and actually generating the flashcards, which I will be able to review later. Okay. So actually, after the Ramper API response, I can also send back some instructions to Claude, which you can see here. So one thing I want to point out is that Claude will, by default, Claude and other sort of MCP clients, other chat apps, will not show these output directly to the user, but they will, so Claude will interpret it and then show sort of an interpretation of the output to the user. This will be important later. Okay, so going back to the repo. So out of the lessons, best practices I listed here, I'm going to go over just 3 of them. The first one is sort of working on investing time iterating on the tool description. The second one is using the tool output in a strategic way. And the third one is sort of quality control by running some automated tests to check the quality of your MCP server. And I guess if you want to build like an MCP server with your own tools, there are plenty of tutorials online. I'm going to assume that you have like a basic MCP server working, and instead I'm going to focus on maybe some non-obvious things that you need to do in order to actually make it good and to actually provide value to users. Okay, so the first one is the tool description. So I mentioned the tool description basically gets appended to the Claude system prompt, so you can do quite a bit of prompt engineering in it. The create flashcards tool description is pretty long. It's basically, you can divide it into two parts. The first part gives context to Claude about what's going on. So we tell Claude what is render, what is MCP, what are the inputs, what happens after the tool is invoked, so that it creates flashcards for the user, and so on. And the reason we need this is because it's not the chat user that decides to use the tool, it's actually Claude. So Claude is autonomous in deciding when to use each specific tool. And so you want Claude to make good decisions about whether it wants to use your tool or not. And in order to do that, you need to provide lots of context and give it a good idea of what is actually going on here. The second part of the tool description is sort of instructions on how to actually use the tool. So we provide a list of use cases, including, okay, the user asks a question and then he wants to remember what he learned. That's what we've seen earlier. We have use cases like what to do like when the user attaches a PDF to the chat, things like that. Then we have a list of things the user might say if he wants to actually use this tool. And finally, we have a rubric, so a list of rules to follow in formulating the list of nodes that gets sent to random, because we want them formatted in a very specific way in order to later process them. Okay, so I guess you see this is very long and quite fairly complex. Obviously, we didn't write this at the first try. It was a process. It took a few weeks of sort of deploying it, talking to users, see what problems emerged, and iteratively we solved all of these problems until we reached like a somewhat satisfying result. So this is still work in progress, but I think it works fairly well at this point. So you need to spend time and actually iterate on this tool. It's not just, I mean, for some tool it works that you write it once and it works, but for more complex things it doesn't work like that. Okay, so the second point I want to talk about is using the tool output strategically. So basically, again, you can after you handle the tool call, you can give some instructions to Claude. And so, for instance, here you can solve hallucinations. Like, for instance, these remembrance MCP only collects nodes, but the API response does not tell Claude how many flashcards it created. But what we noticed is that it just hallucinates a random number. It tries to tell the user, okay, we created X flashcards, when in practice it doesn't know about that. So we solved that by sort of giving specific instructions here. We also handle API errors, so we have a free and abate plan. And if the user runs out of sort of free credits, we instruct Claude to tell the user to visit a specific URL. Okay, the final thing I want to talk about is automated testing. Basically, again, as you iterate, like it takes a few weeks to iterate on the tool description and the prompt. And as you do that, you will collect different use cases. So you want to create some sort of eval, some sort of test suite to make sure you don't have regressions and all the use cases are properly handled at all times. And I'm running out of time, so I'm going to skip. Like I have a few more details, a few nice things that we do for tests. If you want to know about them, talk to me later. Okay, so that's the end of it. These are my contacts. If one of your main use cases for LLMs is actually learning things, please come talk to me, because we're still sort of validating the product, working on the product, and I want to understand what the problems in this case are and see if we can solve them. Okay, thank you.